Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're digging into the 2025 Delhi car explosion. Now, this was a tragedy that really struck the heart of the capital, but what was uncovered in its wake? Well, that was a conspiracy so vast, it could have changed the course of the nation's history. This is the story of how one single tragic blast unraveled a plot of absolutely terrifying scale. So let's set the scene. It all started with a moment of just sheer terror. For one eyewitness, an auto driver, it was a totally normal Monday evening rush hour. And then, in an instant, a deafening explosion and a massive fireball. You can just imagine the chaos as commuters fled for their lives. The immediate aftermath was just a scene of pure devastation, and right near a beloved national landmark. But as that smoke began to clear, the real story was only just beginning to surface, revealing that this horrific event was actually just the tip of a much larger and far more sinister iceberg.
Okay, so what were the immediate facts on the ground? Understanding the initial incident is really the foundation for the entire investigation that followed.
So here's a quick summary. We're talking about a Monday evening, just after 7 p.m. at a super busy traffic signal right near the Red Fort metro station. A Hyundai i20 explodes, tragically killing at least 13 people and injuring many more. And the location alone, a symbolic and historic site, immediately put the entire country on high alert. Now, this is where the forensic evidence gave investigators their first critical clues. The postmortem reports were, frankly, chilling. They showed that victims suffered massive internal damage from a really powerful blast wave. We're talking ruptured lungs, ruptured eardrums. But crucially, no splinters or shrapnel were found. This told them something huge. This wasn't a crude bomb. It was a high-intensity device, and that was a pivotal clue. With the initial scene processed, the focus shifted to a massive investigation. And the question on everyone's mind was pretty simple. Who was responsible for this heinous act? And the response was incredibly swift. Within 24 hours, the case was handed to India's premier anti-terror agency, the National Investigation Agency, or NIA. By day 2, the Union Cabinet had officially declared it a heinous terror incident. And get this, by day 3, they had a name. So through some pretty meticulous forensic work, investigators identified the man behind the wheel. A leg was found trapped near the accelerator, and by matching its DNA with his mother's, they had a name, Dr. Umar un-Nabi. And it became clear, this wasn't just a victim. He was the prime suspect. Identifying Dr. Umar was a massive breakthrough, for sure. But it also opened the door to an even more disturbing question. Was this the work of a lone wolf, or was he part of something much, much bigger? And this is where the story takes a dramatic turn. Investigators quickly realized the Red Fort blast wasn't the main event. In fact, it was the accidental unraveling of a plot that could have brought the entire country to its knees. What investigators uncovered was a plan of just staggering ambition. The goal wasn't one car bomb, but 32. Let that sink in for a second. 32 separate vehicles, each one going to be rigged with explosives, ready to be deployed. And at the heart of this whole operation was a core group of 8 individuals, a dedicated cell that was allegedly preparing to carry out these simultaneous attacks. Their target wasn't just the capital. The plan was to launch coordinated, simultaneous strikes across 4 different major Indian cities, with the operatives working in pairs to maximize the chaos and confusion. So from the terrorists' perspective, the Delhi blast was a catastrophic failure. It's believed that Dr. Omar was panicking, possibly trying to escape after security agencies had busted part of his module in a nearby city just hours before. In his panic, he made a fatal mistake that, while incredibly tragic, ultimately prevented an unimaginable nationwide catastrophe. So how is this complex plot even structured? How does a group organize an attack of this magnitude? We'll take a look at this list. The investigation uncovered a network of highly educated professionals, including several doctors. One source described it as a white-collar terror ecosystem made up of radicalized individuals using their skills and status to plan mass murder. It just challenges every single stereotype of a terrorist. And their operational playbook? It reveals a methodical, almost corporate approach to terror. This was not some haphazard plan. They handled fundraising, procuring massive amounts of raw materials for IEDs, modifying vehicles to become car bombs, and using encrypted apps like Signal to coordinate. Every single step was carefully planned out.
The numbers here really put the sheer scale of the operation into perspective. They raised 20 lakh rupees for funding. A big chunk of that went to buying over 2,000 kilograms of fertilizer, a key ingredient for explosives. And in related raids, authorities seized nearly 3,000 kilograms of bomb-making material in total. The volume of materials and money involved just underscores how advanced, well-funded, and deadly this plot really was. So the plot's discovery prevented a massive tragedy, yes, but it also raised some urgent and really difficult questions about national security and the nature of the evolving threat that India faces.
And a stark contrast emerged in the official reactions to terror incidents in the region right around this time. The day after the Delhi blast, a separate explosion happened in Islamabad. As an Al Jazeera analysis pointed out, India's response was cautious, it was evidence-driven. Meanwhile, Pakistan's prime minister immediately blamed India, without any evidence. Two attacks, two very, very different approaches to national security and diplomacy.
This whole event sparked a wider debate among security analysts. The New Indian Express questioned if urban policing is just too reactive. Michael Rubin, an analyst at AEI, drew parallels with Israel's strategy of mowing the lawn. That's a term for regular, limited military operations to degrade enemy capabilities. And he asked if surgical strikes are really enough to stop terror groups from just regrowing. And all the while, intelligence sources repeatedly pointed to links with Pakistan-based handlers from groups like Jaish-e-Mohammed and Lashkar-e-Taiba. Ultimately, averting this one plot can't be seen as a final victory. The threat is constant. And as this quote so powerfully states, preventing future attacks requires a fundamental, ongoing shift in our security posture, a system that is always on, always alert, and always one step ahead. And that really is the central, unsettling challenge this whole incident leaves us with. How do you stay one step ahead when the battlefield is no longer a remote border, but the apartment right next door? When the threat comes not from a stereotypical terrorist, but from a doctor, a professional, a neighbor? This case proves that vigilance is more critical than ever in a world where the most dangerous plots can hide in plain sight.